Hello and welcome. We're so glad you joined us. I'm Sharon DiBartolo-Carmack, and I'm a diploma holder of the Spiritualist National Union, and I'm so delighted to be hosting Minister Steven Upton, who is the Education and Exponents Director, and he will be answering all of your questions about awards and accreditation and education courses today. Some of you did email questions in advance. Those questions will take priority, but you are certainly welcome to put questions in the chat or when we come to a point and we ask if there are any more questions, you can raise your hand, raise your blue hand. But otherwise, if you would just put your questions in the chat. And just for those of you, in case you don't know how to work the Zoom platform, if you move your cursor to the upper part of the black border and make sure you are on gallery view, that way everybody is on the screen, or is 20 of us, and then it goes on to another page if you'd like that view, or speaker view, and the speaker will be in the center. If you bring your cursor down to the bottom of the black border, please click on participants and chat, and that will open the chat window so that you can post your questions there. All right, so we will get started on these questions for Steven.
Okay, before we just launch into questions, if you don't mind, Sharon, I'd like to give a little bit of background information about the Spiritualist National Union and the awards scheme system.
Perfect.
This isn't something we dreamt up a few days ago or last year. The Spiritualist National Union has been granting various awards in different categories of mediumship for well over 100 years. So we're very experienced at assessing different types of mediumship. We started a correspondence college in around about 1910, and one of our earliest recorded awards systems was in about 1916, although there were awards earlier. Then it was updated in 1936, and it's been updated various times since. So it's something that we've been doing for a very long time, and we're very experienced at assessing people in various categories. At the moment, we have what we'd call 3 levels, although the first level is technically not an award. We have the accreditation level, which is the starting point for everyone, and we have 3 different accreditation schemes. The platform accreditation scheme, which is for people who want to be speakers and or demonstrators. You cannot do it just as a demonstrator, you can do it as just a speaker. And there is an SNUI equivalent scheme that runs parallel to it. There's the healing accreditation scheme for those who want to qualify as healing mediums, and there is not an SNUI equivalent of that. If somebody wants to know why, then you can ask me. And there is a church administration accreditation scheme. Again, there is no SNUI equivalent to that because SNUI isn't running churches. And it's for people specifically who run our churches in the real world scenario, about all the different ways of that you have to, things you have to understand in church management, because there's lots of legal implications. So the starting level for everyone is usually the accreditation scheme. So that's either administration, healing, or speaking and demonstrating. Now the next level up then is the certificate level, a certificate of recognition of the Spiritualist National Union. If you're going for a certificate for the administration, healing, speaking, or demonstrating, you must do the appropriate accreditation scheme first. But if you're going for a certificate in something else that doesn't have the appropriate accreditation scheme, then of course you don't have to do the accreditation scheme because there isn't one. And the highest level is the diploma. And in any of the diplomas, with the exception of lecturing, because there isn't an equivalent certificate, then you must do the certificate before you do the diploma. And before you do most of the certificates, the most common ones, you must do the accreditation scheme. So you can see it's a process that starts you off at a basic level, moves you on to an intermediate level, and then takes you forward to a more advanced level. Running parallel with that, we have a teaching award certificates and diplomas as well. And they're linked sideways to their appropriate certificate. For example, once you've got the certificate, say in healing, you can then qualify, get the certificate as a teacher of healing mediumship. Once you've got that, you can, and then you upgrade your certificate in healing to a diploma in healing. You could then, if you wish to, upgrade your teaching certificate in healing to the teaching diploma in healing. And finally, beyond that, we have something called a TSNU, a Teacher of the Spiritualist National Union, in 4 different categories. And that is someone who is qualified to teach people how to teach different categories of mediumship. And just an example, the whole system, say for healing, you start off at the accreditation level, move on to certificate, move on to diploma, and in parallel, the teaching certificate, teaching diploma, all that before you could go for the TSNU, someone qualified to teach teaching. In fact, the whole history of the SNU, only 3 people have done that. And I'm one of them. Not wishing to sound boastful, but I'm one of the 3. Minister Judy Seaman's the other, and Minister Nora Shaw, that's the 3 of us who have the TSNU in the healing category. So it's a very extensive scheme. Combined with it, there's also the academic aspect, which is our education courses. And for every award, there is a corresponding academic part of it. We're just in the process now of bringing these into a more integrated format. Prior to a year ago, in fact, go back a little bit further, prior to either 2 or 3 years ago, I lose track of time, we had 3 separate committees that dealt with all of this. The Healing Committee dealt with all matters to do with healing, the Healing Accreditation Scheme. We had an Education Committee that dealt solely with the academic aspect, the written work. And we had a Training and Awards Committee that dealt with the awards. And the problem with that system was that there was no, what I call, joined up thinking. The Education Committee wrote the academic side, the Training and Awards decided what the practical element would be, and they thought, okay, what is the nearest course that fits what we want to do? We'll use that. That's all changing now. 2 or 3 years ago, the Training and Awards Committee and the Healing Committee were amalgamated to form the Exponents Committee. So we were down to 2. And July of last year, we changed that again, and we formed the new Education Exponents Committee, which is an amalgamation of all 3 of the former. We've now got joined up thinking. We've just launched on, whenever it was, 1st of July, I think, the new platform accreditation scheme. And this scheme is the first example where the education course, the academic element, TPS1, the practical side and the training were all written together by a single body of people, not bringing it together as completed pieces of work and hope they fit, which they kind of did, kind of didn't. So now, TPS1, every section has learning objectives. The training in PAS for each section of that has the same learning objectives. And finally, when we assess you, it has the same learning objectives running all the way through. So for the first time, we've now got a fully integrated training program. The academic, the practical, and the assessment all were written together as a single training program. The Healing Accreditation Scheme, that was our first attempt at doing it, which was almost there. And we've just recently rewritten the academic side to bring it in line with this thinking. And we'll revisit that eventually to fully integrate it. And we're now working on the next level up for speakers and demonstrators, which is the certificate level, where we'll have a TPS2, the academic element, the practical element in the training for the certificate. And in the past, we haven't offered training for certificate level or diploma level. From now on, we're working on devising training programs, because at the end of the day, we want people to learn from it, to improve their standard and their knowledge, and qualify for the certificate or diploma. Sending people into assessments without fully understanding what's required of them makes no sense to me. People very often will fail. We're now, in the past, in a sense, we were setting people up to fail, but many were good enough to pass. Now, we're training people to pass. We're training people to meet the standard that is required when they go to their final assessment board. And that makes far more sense to me. Training people to be successful. And we should therefore get, ultimately, a far higher success rate, happier people, because people aren't terribly happy when we tell them they failed, but also more encouraging that those that get through the accreditation will want to move on to the certificate, who will then want to move on to the final level, the diploma. And to give you an example how this system, to a large extent historically, has not worked, when we looked at the healing accreditation scheme 3 years ago, out of all of those that registered to start it, for the academic element, H1, I'm trying to think of the figures off the top of my head, so I could be slightly wrong. I believe it was 25% didn't start it. Out of those that started it, and again, I can't remember exact figures, it was another 40% never finished it. So we're looking at 3/4 of the people that started it didn't finish the academic element. Out of that small percentage then that finished it, I think it was 5% went on to getting the certificate. 5% of the original people that signed up got a certificate, and 0.5% eventually ended up with a diploma. 0.5%. One person in every 200 that started the process got to diploma. That's not sustainable in the long term. So that's why we changed the whole process now, where we're training people to be successful, and it's a more encouraging process to move on with our personal development and training in a particular subject from one level to the next, to the diploma level. And that's where the current thinking is now with the Education and Exponents Committee. And to lead by example is always a good idea. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think I've achieved 7 diplomas. I think it's 7 now, 2 certificates, TSNU, ASNU, long service award, an award of merit, I think. So I've been through the assessment process myself as a candidate more times than most people, and assessed as a minister, and that took 3 days, and also as an Arthur Findlay College tutor. That was another lengthy assessment. I have sat there as a candidate being assessed, so I know what it's like to be on that end of it. It can be very nerve-wracking, particularly if you don't know what you're facing. With the new processes, when people eventually get to that point where you're being assessed, you'll know what's ahead of you. And that will eliminate, or help to eliminate, many of the nerves people face. Because I remember very clearly my first board. In those days, it was, I think I got the healing diploma in 1990, so that was 30 years ago. In those days, you didn't have to, there wasn't an accreditation scheme, you didn't have to do the certificate, you could go straight for the diploma. And I'm being assessed for the healing diploma, and I had no idea, none whatsoever, of what was involved on an assessment board. No one told you, it was a mystery. It was a secret. And they wonder why some people fail. Well, why many people failed. We don't want you to fail. We want you to be successful. So if we could have the first question, Sharon, please.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. Well, that's very encouraging, I'm sure, for all of us to hear that all the programs are being redone with an eye toward passing rather than failing. That relieves a lot of the stress. One of the first questions you already answered is about the new PAS program and wrapped in with the TPSI, so everything is packaged together. However, in the old PAS program, a candidate did 25 demonstrations and 25 speaking. Is that still the same, or has that changed?
Same.
Same. Okay.
One thing I'd like to define as well, clearly define, is the difference between PAS and PAS-I.
Okay.
Because when you get a logbook for PAS or PAS-I, it's one logbook, and there's a statement at the beginning that says, for the purposes of this scheme, PAS and PAS-I are exactly the same. So the training and everything and the assessment are all identical. How do we then define the difference? Firstly, to do PAS, start with that one, you must be either a member of an SNU affiliated body or Pioneer Centre, or an IM. Now, I'm going to use lots of abbreviations, so get used to them. An IM is an individual member of the SNU. Don't confuse that with SNU-I membership. So an IM is an individual member of the SNU. So to do PAS, you must be either a church member or an IM. To do PAS-I, you must be a member of SNU-I and either a church member or an IM. How we differentiate between the two is now very simple. And that is, to do PAS-I, all of your services will be online. To do PAS, some of your services will be in the real world. That's it. That's the difference. But the actual training, the requirements for the academic and the practical and the assessment are identical.
Okay, thank you. Because on the website, it says there are 9 sections covering 19 subjects. So that was a little confusing to some people.
Yeah, a section is a training session, not a training day. It doesn't mean there are 9 training days. When we look at the logbook for PAS, PAS-I, the 90, on a particular training session, they might cover 2 or 3 subjects.
So they're still doing for PAS or PAS-I, they're still doing a training session as well as the correspondence course. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just bringing up the logbook so I can actually give you an idea as to what the titles are of these training sessions and what the actual subjects are. You've still got to do TPS1. That's the academic elements. The training sessions are predominantly practical. There's 9 sessions, training sessions. Number 1, history of modern spiritualism and the development of the SNU. 2, teachings of spiritualism. 3, the phenomena of spiritualism. 4, development and training. 5, speaking, preparing the address. 6, mediumship, demonstrating the evidence. 7, prayer. You see, when you're doing a section on prayer, they might do that within a couple of hours. It's not a whole training session. 8, code of conduct. And when we come to the practical side, that is actually homework. You go away and read it. And 9 is a mock final assessment board. So before you go to any final assessment board now, you'll have already done one and told if you would have passed it or if you would have failed it, on what grounds you would have failed. And if you fail the mock assessment board, you're still entitled to go to the real board if you want to. It's left to the student's, the candidate's choice. Now, when we then look at how those sections are broken down, we have 20, including the mock fab, there's 20 training subjects. But a training session can cover more than one training subject.
Okay. I'm going to jump to the chat since we're on the subject of PAS and PAS-I. Julie asks, but to do PAS, don't you have to do your final assessment in an actual church? And then for PAS-I, you do it online?
No.
Okay, please explain.
There's nothing to explain. You can do it. You can do it in the real church or online, if you can find a real church that's open. And at the moment, there are no final assessments in real world churches this year. And I can tell you now, there won't be any for the rest of this year. We're doing all the final assessments online at the moment and have been since March.
So if you're doing it online, do you automatically get the I after it?
No, and I've already answered this question. The difference is where you do your services, not where you're assessed.
Okay.
If you do all of your services online and you're a member of SNUI, plus an IM or a church member, you get PAS-I.
Understood.
If you do some of your services in the real world and you're an IM or a church member, you don't have to be an SNUI member, then it's PAS. But the actual differentiation between the academic element, the training, and the assessment, there is no difference now. It's purely where you do, in which scenario you do your practice, where you actually do your mediumship or speaking. It's where you work, not where we assess you.
Okay, now I understand.
All assessments online at the moment. Every single award at every level is being done online and will be for the remainder of this year. Okay. It's where you work, not where you're assessed. Think of it that way. Some people, SNUI members, never work in the real world. They do all of their work online. That's PAS-I or a CSNU-I.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. Somebody was asking, do you have to be a working medium already before you start PAS or PAS-I?
Well, the part of the actual program is you do services. So if you've got to do 25 services as a speaker and 25 as a demonstrator, unless you're doing speaking only, then it's just 25 as a speaker. We accept that not everybody is a medium. But that doesn't. But we don't accept that you can't train to be a speaker. Anybody and everybody can learn enough knowledge and acquire the skills through training to speak about spiritualism for 10 minutes, which is the requirement for an address for PAS. 15 for a certificate, 20 for a diploma. And there are other differentials which we can go into if somebody wants me to. It's not just the duration. There's other requirements. I just need to add that. So we accept that anybody, we believe I should say, that anybody and everybody can be a speaker. That is a training and a knowledge issue. Not everybody can be a medium. Now, it was myself, actually, I claim responsibility for this. I took it to the NEC, I can't remember how long ago, it might be 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and I said to the NEC, because at that time you could do just demonstrating. And I said to the NEC, what use is a demonstrator to our churches? Because church rules require us, we must do an address, we may do a demonstration. And since then, to reinforce that, the Lord Toulson ruling, which has replaced the Lord Denning ruling, has made it more important. It's a legal requirement now for our charitable status that we have to propagate to the audience or congregation the teachings of our religion. Demonstrating mediumship is not our teachings. The address is what we teach people and how to live spiritually a spiritual life today. Mediumship doesn't do that. Mediumship provides the evidence that supports the teachings. So I said to the NEC at the time, we're allowing people to become a demonstrator only, and that's no use to a church. And I do not accept that people cannot learn how to do a competent and reasonable address. And they agreed. So we made it so you can't do demonstrating only anymore, but you can do speaking only. I forgot what the question was now. Did I answer it?
Yes, you answered it. Someone else had a question about prior learning. Do you still accept prior learning? Either?
Oh, sorry, I just want to go back to the question. I remember what the question was. Yeah, if you're going into PAS, you really need to be already starting to do services, either online or in real world churches, because you can't do the practical elements. What we don't want is people do, and this has happened in the past, and it's caused problems. They do the academic part of it, what used to be SD1. 5 years later, 6 years later, they start doing services. Then we're starting assessing them on the services and SD1, which they did years ago, and it's been updated. So they've learned an academic part of it that's not in sync with the practical elements. So this is where it's all joined up now. So to go into PAS, you're doing a current academic part of it and a current alongside the practical element. So you shouldn't be going into PAS unless you're all just starting, at least just starting the practical element, and that is as a speaker or a demonstrator. This should not be for people who have not yet started developing communicating mediumship, because it'll all get out of sync and won't work. So sorry, what was the next question?
Okay, no, that's good. Someone had asked about for accreditation or CSNU, do you still accept prior learning, and what would be acceptable if you do?
It depends what it is. You have, every case is looked at individual. We have RPL, which is recognition for prior learning, and it would depend on what it was. Now, for example, if you held a CS, and this is purely an example, it's not definitive. If you were an SNU member 10, 15 years ago, and you achieved CSNU level as a speaker demonstrator, and for whatever reason you went away from it for more than 5 years, and you came back, rejoined, you cannot reclaim those awards if they've been lapsed for more than 5 years. You start again. So that may be one example where somebody says, well, look, I was a CSNU demonstrator for 10 years, 8 years ago. I'm now an IM. Could I RPL PAS for speaking and demonstrating and go straight for to try and requalify for CSNU? We wouldn't RPL the CSNUs in that case. We may consider RPLing the PAS level, particularly if we knew the person, they had a track record. That's one example. But every case is looked at individually. There's an application form they put in. It's looked at by firstly the coordinator, who will then, if he feels there is a reasonable case, will send it through to the committee to look at. So I can't give you other examples, to be honest, because everyone is individual.
Okay, all right, thank you. Someone is interested in becoming a minister of the SNU. Yep. What are the training and requirements for that?
Firstly, you can't apply. The thinking used to be many years ago, the type of person that would apply is not the type of person we want. Sounds a bit weird, I know, but that was the thinking years ago. Now, the first thing is, trainee ministers are selected. And we only select them from a fairly small pool of people, and that is people who are already officiants. So the question has to be, how do I become an officiant, not a minister? So you've got to become an officiant, and then we would look at you then possibly and invite you to becoming a trainee minister. So the officiant is something you've got to look at first. To be an officiant, you can apply. And I'm going from memory now, and I have to look it up in bylaws to get the requirements exactly right. Firstly, you must have a speaker's certificate before you can apply. Also, you can be recommended. As a minister, I can recommend somebody to be a trainee officiant. In fact, I've recommended 2 or 3 people in the last year. I was at a board at Stafford. In fact, somebody from SNUI was being assessed. I was very impressed with their speaking and their demonstrating, although you don't have to be a medium to be a minister. I was very impressed with their level of competency as a speaker and other work that I saw them do, and I recommended them. I asked them if they were interested in the ministry, and they were, and I recommended them. But you can apply. So you must have a speaker's certificate. And you must be an IM. We've got to be an IM to have a speaker's certificate. And you must have been an IM, and this is the bit from memory. I think it's 3 years. but that's from memory. I'd have to look it up in bylaws G, and rather than slow down the session to get the bylaws out and check, I'm going from memory. I think it's 3 years as I am, and you must have this. I know that you must have the speaker certificate. If you apply, then they would interview you. MAC, when I say they, MAC, another acronym, Ministers Administration Committee. They would interview you for your suitability. It's more about suitability than qualifications. And if they judge that you are suitable, they will then recommend to another acronym, the NEC, the National Executive Committee, which is the Board of Directors. And then the NEC would decide, yes, because the NEC is the appointing body, we would appoint you or not as a trainee officiant. And whilst you're a trainee officiant, there's a whole process of training you go through. Don't ask me what it is because I'm not involved with that. Also, I'm the last minister who was never an officiant. So I've not done efficiency training, so I can't speak about it. After I became a minister, things changed and you must be an officiant first. So I can't talk about the training. But I do believe there's a part of it is, there's a course, I think it's Ministerial Services 1, but the training is predominantly about conducting ministerial services, weddings, namings, funerals. I did a funeral yesterday for a military veteran. I was requested by the family to do the funeral, even though he wasn't a spiritualist. I was requested by the family to do his funeral. It was in a crematorium yesterday. So you're trained to do things like that. Blessings. In spiritualism, we don't do christenings. Do you know why we don't do christenings?
Because we're not Christians.
Absolutely. We do namings. And we don't use water as they do in christenings. You know why we don't use water?
That I don't know.
Because water is used to symbolise the washing away of original sin. And we don't believe in that. We believe everyone is born perfect. Every soul that comes out of the womb is absolutely perfect. It's as we go through life we mess it up. But you can't be born with sin. What we use is flowers, because we believe flowers is God's gifts to us, the beauty of flowers in nature. And what we do, we read the flowers. Did you know about flower readings?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I like them actually. I like doing flower readings. And we can also do namings for adults, and we can do them for babies or children. You can do them for anybody. But as the person conducting the naming, we don't just name you your given name that your parents have given you, that's on your birth certificate. We give you the spirit name. This is the name you're known by in the spirit world. We give you that. But also as the minister, I will have to decide what flowers I need. And it comes purely inspirationally. I'll very often dream about it before the service, or it just comes to me, as mediumship often does. I know what flowers I need. And an example, it could be the nature of the flowers, or it could be the colour combinations. I was doing a baby naming in Switzerland a few years ago, and I knew that I needed red and yellow flowers. I didn't know what type, and in fact, I didn't think it mattered what type. I knew I needed red and yellow, and I needed them in proportion, that I needed twice as many red as yellow. So I said to my translator, on the way to wherever we're going to do the naming, we need to call into the flower shop. I'll know the flowers when I see them. 5 flower shops later, we're running out of flower shops now, and I haven't seen them. The last flower shop, a few hundred yards from where the house we're going to, walk and look around, there they are. I think it was 6 of them and 3 of them. 6 red, 3 yellow, that particular shape. Because when you come to read them, the inspiration from them, for example, how many buds are on a stem, how many leaves coming out of a stem are meaningful. If the stem on one is longer than another, it's meaningful. The petals, are the flowers in bloom or in bud? That's meaningful. So when we do namings, we use flowers, and we do a flower reading as part of the naming. So as part of the training for an officiant is learning how to do these very special official services, ministerial services. Funerals, weddings, namings, blessings, the whole lot. Same-sex blessings, same-sex weddings, if it's legal in your country. We've done same-sex, what we used to, before it was legal for same-sex marriages, we've been doing same-sex friendship services and blessing services for decades. We've never had a problem with that. But legally, we couldn't do same-sex marriages until fairly recently.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. Right. So if you want to be a minister, you become an officiant first. And if you're really good, somebody will spot you and think, that person needs to be a minister, and someone will recommend you.
Okay. All right. Very good. You were talking earlier about diplomas being the highest level you can go, but so many of the diplomas require advanced courses, and I don't see the advanced courses online anymore.
No, there's very few of the diplomas require advanced courses, only the A diploma. At the moment, the writing diploma is suspended as well. Lecturer's diploma, I think, without looking, I can't remember. But the diplomas that virtually everybody goes for do not require advanced courses. The diplomas that we are doing generally, the odd healing, speaking demonstrating, the most common, private sittings, none of these do you need advanced courses for. The problem with the advanced courses, and the reason why they're suspended, is because they're so out of date. There's so much of the education side out of date. I'll give you an example. The admin diploma. This is running our churches, also running the union. At the diploma level, there's accreditation level, it's about running a church. Certificate level, more in-depth running a church, and at local district level, diploma level, we're talking about running the union. When we looked at the course G1, which was for accreditation level, and I only looked at this in the last month or two, we're rewriting it now into church management, church leadership and management. It's going to be CLM1, church leadership and management 1, so G1 will disappear. We're already working on it. But G1 was based upon 2014 church rules, whereas currently churches are running on 2018 church rules, and we've just finished writing the 2021 church rules. So somebody studying for the platform accreditations, the church administration accreditation now, is working on a set of rules that's already one set out of date and will be two sets out of date next year. And the bylaws they're working on were based upon 2010, 10 years out of date. That's what we're faced with at the moment with a lot of these courses. But you can't rewrite these courses overnight. So that's the issue. So we took the decision, because very, very few people are doing advanced courses or awards that require them, to suspend them until we can get round to doing something sensible with them.
Okay. All right. That was the emailed questions. Now we'll go to the ones in the chat. Eva said to do the PAS, it used to be required to do SD1 and SD4. Actually, it was only SD1.
Only SD1.
PAS.
SD4 is for the certificate.
Right. So is SD4 going to be the TPS2?
Eventually, yes.
Eventually. Okay.
Anybody who's got PAS or PAS-I now and who wants to get upgraded to certificate should do SD4 now. Okay. Don't wait for TPS2, because you could do SD4 while you're waiting and get it done. And if we're also saying with SD4, anybody who passes SD4 with a grade B pass or higher since the 31st of December 2018, it will be valid for PAS once we've scrapped SD4 and replaced it with TPS2. It'll still be valid. You'll have to read TPS2, because you won't be able to do the actual training for the certificate, but you won't have to do the test papers. My advice for anybody who's got PAS or PAS-I who wants to upgrade its certificate, sorry about that, do TPS, do SD4 now and get it over and done with.
Okay, good.
Turn the phone off.
Okay. That answer your question, Eva? Yeah. Okay, good.
Does Eva already have PAS or PAS-I?
Eva, do you already have PAS or PAS-I? Come on.
No, I'm thinking of it for 2 years and I can't come to a conclusion.
Well, by the time if you signed up for PAS or PAS-I right now, the length of time it would take you, you'd probably find SD4 has disappeared by then. Now, we've had, for some reason, there's been some misinformation out there in the world. We've had people doing SD1 and SD4 and then doing PAS. SD4 was never a requirement for PAS. And that's caused some confusion because we've got people now saying to us, well, I did SD4 5 years ago and I'm just finishing PAS. Can I count SD4 towards CSNU? Well, yes, you can right now, but the moment we replace it with TPS2, if you passed it before 31st December 2018, then no, you can't. It's too out of date. So the thing is now, don't do SD4 unless you've got PAS. By the time you've done PAS or PAS-I, the chances are TPS2 will have replaced SD4.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Daniela asks, how do you walk the path from CSNUI teacher in healing to diploma teacher? Is that H3 and H4, and will H3 and H4 also be updated?
There isn't a CSNUI in healing.
She's the CSNUI teacher in healing. She's already got her CSNU in healing.
Yeah. She'd firstly have to upgrade. Sorry, does she want to upgrade a CSNU in healing to the diploma in healing, or the CSNU IT?
Daniela, come on in. You explain it.
Which is it you want to upgrade, or both?
Hi, Stephen. That's very difficult what you're asking me. Because in the beginning you're talking about upgrading your teaching into diploma.
Yeah.
But I have my CSNU in healing and I got my CSNUI teaching in healing.
Yes.
And I've got my H3 in the home.
Yes.
And I've spoken with Andre and he talked about walk the pathway to the H3, H4 to the diploma holder and then upgrade.
Okay, there's two things there, two issues. The first thing is to upgrade your CSNU, healing CSNU, to the healing diploma.
Yeah.
Do H3 and 4.
Yeah.
And then we'll assess you.
Mm-hmm.
If you then wanted to upgrade your CSNU-I teaching in healing, there is no DSNU-I.
Oh.
You'd first have to upgrade your CSNU-I in healing, teaching in healing, to CSNU teaching in healing.
Mm-hmm. But I can't online, I guess.
I can't answer that now. At the moment, we've got to do everything online because we can't do it in the real world. When all this COVID-19 situation's over and we're back to some sense of normality, you'd probably have to go to Barbanell Centre and do a training course there or be assessed there, teaching in the real world.
Okay.
It's different. So you'd then upgrade your CSNU-I teaching to CSNU in teaching. And if you've then already got the DSNU in healing, you could upgrade your CSNU teaching healing to the DSNU teaching healing. There's two separate upgrades required.
Okay, and is the H3 and the H4 also on the plan for upgrade?
Yes.
Or changing?
Yes.
So is it better to wait or just start with it?
Depends how quick you are.
And not.
Or not. We've just replaced H1 with SH1. We're now currently working on TPS2, and then we'll move, which is certificate level. Then we'll move on to SH2, which is healing certificate level, before we get round to diploma levels. Could be a while. But H3 and 4 will be replaced by SH3 eventually, one day, after we've slept a lot.
Okay, I'm just going to start, okay?
We're working on the certificate levels now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we get to diploma levels. If you're really good, and I don't mean good as a person, good, get on with stuff, you could do H3 and 4 before we've replaced them.
Yeah, I will.
And remember, the SH3 will be taking H3 and 4, deciding on what bits we want, what bits to update. So a lot of what you'll be doing will be incorporated in SH3 anyway. But I suspect we won't have SH3 done this year.
Okay.
I don't think we'll have it this year.
Okay, then I will start. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, very good. Linda asks, can the practical elements of PAS-I be a mixture of church work and online work?
Yes. Oh, so no, not PAS-I. PAS, but not PAS-I. PAS-I, all of your services are online. PAS can be a mixture.
Okay. Okay. Angela, I see your hand is up. Is that based on the question that you have below, or you have another question or comment?
No, it's different, Angela. The different Angela.
Yeah, but your hand is up, Angela.
Oh, which Angela are you talking about? The other Angela, okay.
Okay. All right.
I don't care.
Okay.
Whichever one.
All right, that's fine. Isabel asks, how do you become an officiant? If you want to apply for officiant, what do you do to become?
You've got to have the CSNU as a speaker. And you must have been an IM. I believe it's a minimum of 3 years. I can check it up, but it'll take me 2 or 3 minutes to check it if you want me to. But I believe it's 3 years. It changed recently, actually. But I believe it's 3 years. And then what you do, you apply to MAC, the Minister's Administration Committee. You tell them you've got the speaker certificate, you've been an IM for the minimum required time. I'm going to look this up to make sure I'm not misinforming you. Bylaws G. You can download all this from the SNU website. Bylaws G is the one for all the awards and etc. Accreditation schemes and awards. Tells you in here everything you need to know about that. Procedure. Oh, sorry, no, it's Bylaws H for appointments. Bylaws H is appointments. Awards come under G. Appointments. Where are we? Ministership. Efficiency. Candidates for training for the efficiency. Okay. You must have been for the preceding 3 years an individual member. So I was correct. And you must hold a certificate of recognition. That's it. So that is correct. 3 years. You've been an IM for 3 years and you've got a speaker certificate, you can apply to become a trainee officiant. Now then, before you are appointed as an officiant, you must have been an individual member for the preceding 4 years. So if you completed your training in under a year, you'd have to wait. Prior to attendance at the board, passed at grade B or higher the basic administration course G1 and either G3 or MAC 1. Those are 2 education courses. So you've got to do 2 education courses. Prior to attendance at the board, you must have passed at grade B Ministerial Duties course MD1. So that's 3 courses you've got to do. And prior to attendance at the board, you must have satisfactorily completed the practical training. So the training period is a minimum of 1 year and a maximum of 5. And there are 3 academic courses and there is practical training. But to apply for efficiency training, you've got to have been an IM for the 3 years and have the speaker certificate.
Okay, Isabel, yeah, you have a further question on that?
Yes, I used to be a HSB membership for years, but my husband became ill and I had to take it back and I didn't renew it. At that particular time, I had to get 2 people to sign membership and put forward. Is that still the case for the IM?
No, you can go to the SNU website right now, become a full IM immediately. You don't need any sponsors anymore. There's no provisional IM anymore. We scrapped that in February this year, the provisional, and we scrapped the 2 sponsors a decade ago, a long time ago, the 2 sponsors. Again, that's something I argued at the NEC that I thought was stupid, so we got rid of it. So no, you can go to the SNU website right now and become an IM. You have to effectively, there's a statement where you're stating, I'm not a member of another religion, you accept the 7 principles. I'm going from memory, so I can't remember all of it. You're stating you're not a registered sex offender, and I think you've got no outstanding charges for an indictable offence. Are you a criminal?
Okay.
No. Then you should be okay. So there's a
I
statement.
haven't murdered my husband.
There's a declaration that says, I accept the 7 principles as the basis of my religious philosophy. I'm not a member of another religion. I don't hold any awards or appointments or positions in another religion, I believe. And I think that I've got no outstanding offences, no unspent convictions. That's it, for an indictable offence. No unspent convictions for an indictable offence.
Okay, and I still keep my Dutch membership in alongside the IM membership.
You can't have Dutch IM membership. There's no such thing. Are you an SNU IM
No,
member?
I still keep my church membership running alongside IM membership.
It doesn't affect church membership. Don't confuse church and IM. They're 2 separate things.
Right.
What church are you a member of? That was a question. Kind of invites an answer.
Church.
Sorry? What church are you?
Kilmarnock Spiritualist Church.
Sorry, I'm talking. Say it again.
Kilmarnock
All right.
Spiritualist Church.
Kilmarnock is an SNU affiliated body, so that's okay. You keep your church membership.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
We could do with some more efficiency up Kilmarnock way.
I was assessed years ago down at Stansted, but after that I didn't do the paperwork platform assessment because my husband ill, so I'm considering coming back in all again, doing the paperwork, but I also don't even know how to apply to do that.
Okay. Just go to the SNU website, snu.org.uk, and in there somewhere you can become an SNU IM immediately.
Okay. The other question I've got, I don't have a laptop. Can I do hand and stuff, or do you prefer it email?
You can apply to head office for an application form. It's easier email. Sorry, not email. It's easier through the website. You don't email it. It's done through the website, direct into the database. But you can get a paper application form if you want one. You'd have to contact head office.
I'm not very right. Okay.
You've got internet access.
Thank you.
You've got internet access, else we wouldn't be talking now. Just go to the website. Have you got a credit card or a debit card?
Yes.
Then that's the easiest way. Straight through the website.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You'll save part of a tree as well.
Thank you, Isabel.
Sorry?
You'll save part of a tree if we don't use paper.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Ricky has a question. How long does it take to do PAS?
As long as it takes you. There's a maximum length of time of 3 years.
Okay.
It's however long it takes you. We don't put a minimum on it.
Okay.
As long as it takes you to do your 25 services in each discipline, as long as it takes you to finish TPS1, but you have a maximum period of 3 years.
Okay. Kimberly is asking, do you need TPS1 or PAS-I to do the SD course? I know it used to be you had to take SD1 before you could take any of the other courses. Is that still true?
No.
So someone could...
Depends what other courses you're talking about.
Okay, but if somebody wanted to just take SD2, there's no prerequisite anymore?
Shouldn't be. And I'm uncertain about my answer to that one, because this isn't something that's cropped up in a long time. I know there was at one time. I don't believe there is. If you're doing them as standalone education courses, I believe you can do any one of them at any time you like as standalone courses.
Okay.
But I could be corrected on that if I went then back to the committee and just double checked. But I think and I believe you can do any education course at the moment as a standalone course if you choose to, because you just want to do. I did SD1 a few years ago, not because I needed it, because I just wanted to do it. So I believe you can.
Okay. Angela Foster, did you have a question or comment?
Actually, I've got two questions. Just to confirm that if you wish to renew your membership online, that you actually leave off the first two numbers, because that's causing a lot of confusion. The first two numbers actually relate to your district or your...
No, you'd have to include them as part of your IM number.
There seems to be a problem with actually putting the numbers in online if we don't leave those two off. That's all. But that's what I understand.
I don't know. That's to do with head office. That's an administrative thing. If there's a problem, a glitch with the website, I can't answer that. Head office would have to look into it. But they need those two numbers, because if you take them off, you can have 14 people with the same IM number. 15. You can have 15 people with the identical IM number.
Okay.
The first two digits tell us where you are. 1 to 14, 01 to 14 is different district councils. As you found out today, you're 02 at West London.
Yeah.
And if it's 15, it means you're overseas. We need that number to know where you are. And the remaining numbers could be duplicated.
Okay, thank you.
So you could be renewing for somebody else. I'm sure they'd be pleased if you paid their renewal.
That has been a bit of a problem. The other thing, one course that I really enjoyed was the S5 one, which is about other religions.
Yeah, I like that one.
But the problem with that was it was very badly laid out, so it was very confusing.
Yeah.
And actually, I found it easier. I spent a bit of time actually putting it into tables and found it easy that way. Will you actually be looking to rewrite that one?
Yeah.
So will there be less content, or will the content be changed?
That's diploma level course. I can't talk about what we're doing with it. It's purely, I'd be just purely guessing. I just don't know. We're at certificate level at the moment. We're reviewing everything. All I can say is yes, it will be done eventually.
That was really interesting course.
It'll end up as part of TPS3.
Okay, thank you.
That's the plan, but the plan can change. No plan is cast in stone, because in the light of experience and new knowledge, we change the plan. We're learning as we go along with a lot of this stuff. We might have a better idea. But at the moment, the intention is the diploma level for speaking demonstrator will be TPS3.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
And thank you, Angela. And we have a question.
Just carrying on slightly, you'll start seeing all the courses, how they're linked. For example, SH1, it says on the front cover, accreditation level course. TPS1 states accreditation level course. When we launch TPS2, it will state on the cover certificate level course. So this is where we're joining them all up again, so that each education course, you can see clearly from the title what level it's at. We created for the trainers, and anyone can buy these from head office, Q&A cards as part of the training for PAS. And the cards have a colour border, green, red and blue. We're colour coding everything. When you look at the logbooks for accreditation schemes, they've got a green theme. For certificate level logbooks, a red theme, diploma level blue. When you look at the Q&A cards, the borders are green, blue or red. And that colour border tells you what level of question this is in the training. If it's an accreditation level question, certificate or diploma level question. Because we could have a PAS candidate in training who are finding the accreditation level questions really easy. So the trainer might then select certificate level questions for them, or even diploma level questions. There's no point in giving people stuff they can do easily. They're not learning. We need to stretch people. So you'll see this colour theme running through what we're doing. Green, red, blue, accreditation level training and academic courses, red for certificate, blue for diploma. This is what we talk about, joined up thinking right across everything we do, top to bottom, left to right.
Okay. All right. From the other Angela in the room, she wants
Oh,
to.
I want to tell you something else we're doing. Because we haven't launched this yet, but it's really good. I'm only telling you because Tim's online. If any of you have got the SNU yearbook, if you're an IM, you should have one. In there, there's a list of prominent dates within the SNU's history, spiritualism's history. We're creating a pack of cards based upon prominent dates. It's key dates cards. We've created a pack of cards for PAS trainers for Q&A and prompt speeches, because part of the training for speaking is prompt speeches. You pick a card, stump speeches, stump speeches. You pick a card at random, and on it might be one word. And it's right, okay, you've got that word, now do a talk on it for 5 minutes. It's a stump speech because you've no preparation time. This is about accessing inspiration. So you're given the word from a card at random. So we've created a whole pack of cards for stump speeches. If any of you are teaching speaking at any level, you can buy this pack of cards from the SNU. Where the college is reopened, they should sell them in the college shop. But they should be on the SNU website now, hopefully. And the Q&A cards are very good. When we launch TPS2, the trainers for that will be issued with the key dates cards, and the packs of cards will be sold to anyone who wants them. These are training aids. So if any of you are wanting to do church services, of course you've got to do the speaking. These key dates cards gives you good prompts. The Q&A cards will help you, and the stump speech cards help you. So we're creating, for the first time with these schemes, not just an education course, not just a training program, so all trainers work to the same manual, but training aids that go with the manual. Everything's joined up. Never done that before. It's only taken us, what, 130 years to get here?
All right. The other Angela in the class wants to know if there is a place on the website with all the acronyms and what they mean.
No, this is part of your development. You have to learn them as you go along.
Ricky wants to know.
Your spiritual development, learning about all these little acronyms and that we have. We've got lots and lots of them.
Yep.
AMSNU. I'm an AMSNU. LSSNU. I can't even remember them all now. ASNU, TSNU, besides being a minister. But ASNU is an assessor of the SNU. You can get a CSNU-A, a DSNU-A, and then you can upgrade to ASNU. And ASNU is someone who is trained to be able to assess all awards at all levels. A CSNU-A is trained to assess their own disciplines that they've got the CSNU in at CSNU level or below accreditation level. A DSNU-A can assess up to diploma level in the disciplines they hold, whereas an ASNU can assess all disciplines at all levels. TSNU is a teacher of the SNU. We teach people how to teach mediumship. AM, Award of Merit. We grant awards of merit usually once a year at the AGM to usually 1 or 2 people a year, and it is for service to spiritualism at national level or international level, a minimum of 10 years membership, but they have to have done something. I got the Award of Merit for creating SNUI, and at the same time, the same year, the Spiritualist Memorial. I was responsible for that at Stafford. So for the 2 projects, I was granted the Award of Merit. LSSNU, long service, 25 years service to spiritualism, not membership, service. GSSNU, gold service, that's 50 years service. And a DSSNU, diamond service, which is 60 years service. And I do stress, not membership. You have to do something in that time, not just be a member.
And when
So
will
we've
you
got
be
lots
getting
of them.
that award?
Sorry?
When will you be getting that award?
Oh, the diamond one. I don't qualify for the gold one. Oh, I can't remember. I can't remember who got the long service one. It was a while back. I think it's... I've been involved in spiritualism since 71. So next year it's 50 years. But I haven't been serving spiritualism since, I think, 1980. It'll be a while. So it'll be like 2030 before I'm entitled to the gold service. And when you qualify for the gold service, you also don't have to pay the membership fee anymore, unless you want to. Your membership fees are remitted for life, unless you choose to pay them.
Which you will.
I don't know. Depends how much money I've got at the time.
All right,
But I
Rick.
think it's about, I think it'll be about 2030 I'm entitled to the gold service.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Ricky asked how and if can we get the SNU programs recognized in Canada?
Recognised by whom?
And so, Ricky, what do you mean by recognized? You can unmute yourself.
I'm not even sure how to ask this question, but if I'm doing Canadian or maybe any other country would do all this certification, but as far as I'm aware, and I might be wrong, it's not recognized by Canada, so I could have it on my business card and but.
Okay. If you achieve a CSN or a DSNU, you should put that on your business card after your name. You know, Ricky, I don't think that's your surname, 3 Red Eye or something Connect. I don't think that's your name, but Ricky Smith, CSNU or DSNU, you should put that on. The SNU mark is recognised worldwide as an achievement, as a level of competency within the categories that people hold. It's recognised as second to none worldwide by most organisations that are interested or involved in this. That if you've got a CSNU or a DSNU as a speaker or demonstrator, you are recognised within spiritualism, usually by other organisations, as being competent. But so when you say recognised in Canada, we've got to ask the question, recognised by who?
Yeah, I'm just getting to know all of this. I mean, just have a beginning of an understanding, or so I'm not sure if there is any body that would recognize or is that's what I said. It's a bit of an ignorant on my part, but for instance, I've had the hypnotherapy, so we don't have a regulatory body in Canada, so we are IMDHA. International Medical Dental Hypnotherapy Association. So I'm wondering if there is any body, a regulatory body. I don't think we have one in Canada.
We are self-regulated. We are a chapter
that would be SNU to Canadian.
No, we are a self-regulatory body. SNU awards are generally recognised within the movement worldwide as being of the highest standards. I'll give an example as to how other organisations recognise us. A few years ago, we had some people come from Argentina to Stansted. They wanted to look at how we regulate and control and issue awards and diplomas, etc., because even in Argentina, they said we are recognised as the leading body in doing this. We have long experience, as I say, over 100 years experience in training, development and assessing. So we are generally recognised within the movement. But that's not like an official recognition by any government body. We are self-regulating, and if you qualify for an SNU award, you can put those letters after your name regardless of where you live. And anybody that understands what those letters mean will generally be involved in spiritualism, and then what we call the SNU mark, CSNU, DSNU, etc., is recognised within the movement. But it's not an official recognition, it's a generally accepted recognition that you achieved a given standard that is regarded as very good. You're also subject to regulations and rules and codes of conduct. If, for example, you're doing a private sitting for somebody, and they were to complain about the standard of your mediumship, we would investigate it. And if necessary, we can remove someone's certificate or diploma if they are no longer meeting the required standards. You don't get them for life. So there is a complaints procedure. We police it ourselves. We will investigate complaints against award holders. We will reassess them if necessary. I've been on boards where we've reassessed people who've had diplomas. I remember reassessing somebody with a speaker's diploma. They'd had it for 5 or 6 years. We'd had complaints about them. We brought them to an assessment board. They failed. The diploma was removed. So that's why these awards are regarded in such high esteem, because you don't get them with your groceries when you go to the supermarkets, and you're not granted these letters for life, having just turned up for a course for a weekend. I work all over the world, and I've seen people with some beautiful certificates, and then they tell me what they had to do to get it. They attended a weekend seminar and get a beautiful certificate for 2 days. To get a CSNU as a speaker and demonstrator in the SNU is going to take you, firstly, accreditation scheme. That's going to be probably at least 2 years, and then maybe another year to 2. So 3 or 4 years to get to certificate. A diploma, you could be talking at least 5 years to get a diploma as a speaker demonstrator. I've known people get things that they think are the equivalent in 2 days. This is why the SNU mark is regarded in such high esteem. It takes time, a lot of training, and you've got to be good to get one. And that's why when you get one, it's worth having. It's a real achievement.
Thank you very much. Can I ask one more?
Yeah, sure. I'm not going anywhere.
Would you give us, I'm Canadian, I live in Canada, how can we draw or bring more people attention to this system? Because as I understand, we don't have many.
Where in Canada are you?
I'm in Vancouver, BC.
Okay, we've got a church on Victoria.
Yes.
We've got a church there. In fact, I've worked there with Simon and Brian. We've got a church there. How can you get more people involved? Is by setting an example, by you setting an example, showing people how good you are as a medium, the training you've received that brings you to a very good standard, and people will ask you. And then you tell them, well, I got my training through SNUI, through the SNU, and I'm a product of SNU training through the Arthur Findlay College, and yourself, you can say online through SNUI. So by you are our best advert. Not a website, you as a person. You are our greatest asset. So when you achieve these standards and you get your CSNUs and your diplomas, and you tell people, I rose to this standard for the training offered by the SNU. The SNU, in a sense, from a mediumistic point of view, and through a lot of hard work on my part, I have to add, they didn't give it me, but through their training, they've helped me become what I have become today. And I thank the SNU for that over many years of training and hard work on my part and a lot of practice. But you're our best advert, every one of you. Get really good, get your certificates and diplomas, and tell people. And they'll want to be like you. When you go and do that demonstration somewhere, and it's like one of those really good ones where you come off and you're thinking, yeah, that was good. And I don't mean in an egotistical way, because there's times I come off thinking, that could have been better. But sometimes you come off thinking, yeah, we did it then, it was right. And you come off feeling that way, that's your best advert. When people think, wow, and they talk to you after, you say, how did you become so good? The SNU helped me. Training, development, and a lot of hard work.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much.
Good point. Linda asks, can you upgrade from PAS-I to PAS, and if so, what do you do?
Yes, you can. We would assess you. In normal times, you'd go to a real-world fab. At the moment, I don't know, because we haven't done one since we've had the COVID situation. We would actually decide that when we get an application for it. But under normal circumstances, when the churches are open, you'd have to go to a real world fab, We'd have to see. See, there's big differences between sitting here like this and doing an address and doing it on a public platform. You have no idea how I'm dressed below my waist, or even if I am dressed below my waist. I was on here yesterday doing something, and I had shorts on. I wouldn't do a church service in shorts. I wouldn't do a church service dressed in this shirt. So dress code is a lot more important, and we can fail people on bad dress in a real church. Less so on here, because we've no idea if you polished your shoes. Now, I wouldn't necessarily fail someone for dirty shoes, but it would be a correction point if I saw dirty shoes on the public platform. So there are differences. Also, when we're online, we are kind of tethered by that camera. I can't go moving around like some mediums do, pacing all over the platform. I'll go off camera. The microphone volume would be going up and down. So we're kind of tethered here. A lot of mediums pace up and down the platform, and if it's excessive, we will fail them. So platform presentation is a very important part of the assessment for PAS and CSNU, whereas for PAS-I and CSNUI, there is no platform presentation, but there's a different things we're looking for when people do it online. So there are differences in the assessment there. In front of a real audience, how you find your recipient, as opposed to doing it online, how you find your recipient, two totally different disciplines, how you do it. In a real church, you're left to find them yourself. And if you've got the correct recipient, that's very important. On PAS-I and CSNUI, the information finds the recipient, and the person chairing it should be controlling and watching the blue hands. And when it's down to one or two, informing the medium. The medium should not be looking for those blue hands or looking for recipients. They focus on their link with the spirit world, provide the evidence, and the evidence finds the recipient. But on a real church platform, you're on your own. You've got to find them yourself, again in a similar way, based upon the evidence. But you've got to deal with people who say, oh yes, it's for me. I can't tell you how many times this happens. And you say, oh, can you accept, you say, I've got someone here who is, I don't know, this is someone's father, and this, and this, and this, and the name's John. And they pass with a heart attack. I'm making that up, by the way. And somebody says, oh, yes, it's for me. And you say, okay, you can accept all of that information. Oh, yes, except that it wasn't my father, and his name wasn't John. But the person I'm thinking of passed with a heart attack. That's not correct. I can see Wendy smiling, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because that happens in church. It happens on SNUI, but the chair controls this with the blue hands. But in a real church, you've got to control that, and you've got to have the strength to say to them, no, I'm not with you. The person I'm communicating with is a man. It's someone's father in this room. He passed with a heart attack, and there must be a close connection to the name John. You can't just take this on you know someone who had a heart attack. It's wrong. You're the wrong person. But too many people think, oh, at last, I've got someone. And then they try to work it, and they get lots of no's, and they're trying to make it fit. They've got the wrong recipient, and they'll fail. So there are different skills you need to learn for PAS and CSNU demonstrator than for PAS-I and CSNUI. So they are different. And I don't know if we would do an upgrade from CSNUI or PAS-I to full PAS or CSNU online, because we'd need to see you on a platform. And I'm just taking that from my head. We haven't had an application and the decision hasn't been made, but I would suspect that would be the answer. We need to see you on a real platform and how you cope with what we call the church hoover. You know what a hoover is? A vacuum cleaner. The church vacuum cleaner, there's one in every church, usually on the back row, and they hoover up all the loose messages. They know everybody in the spirit world, apparently, because there's always somebody in the church that knows everybody. And you have to learn how to deal with them. In a nice, polite way. No, I'm sorry, I'm not with you. There's somebody else in this room. Why would the spirit world give me that this is a father when it's not your father? We're dealing with an intelligence in the spirit world. Where we can go wrong is our interpretation of how we acquire the information, but the spirit world doesn't give us false information. So yes, if we're doing an upgrade, that's what we would do normally. Right now, at the moment, I suspect we possibly couldn't do an upgrade, but we haven't had one anyway apply. So we've not been faced with the decision to make it.
Right.
But yeah, in Canada, I've worked a lot in Canada. I've worked in the Toronto area a lot for the last dozen years. Unfortunately, the person that was organised it's retired last year, so last year was my last time in Canada. But Simon and Brian, very good teachers in Victoria, but also Janet Now Havoc's church on the other coast, New Jersey. I go there every March, and they've got a second church now up in not far from Niagara Falls area, up in New York State, not far from Buffalo area. Which is not too far from the Canadian border. There's a lot of us from Stansted who are working at both those churches. So it may be worth considering them, or of course one day getting to Stansted, which is always worth going to if it's affordable. But in the meantime, SNUI.
Okay, Kimberly, I think we answered your question. You said you want to do SD3, and as a standalone course, you can go ahead and do that. Isabel wants to know how she gets her membership number for her SNU church number. She joined SNUI as a non-member and didn't have that information.
There isn't a church number. They don't have numbers.
Okay, there is no church number. Okay.
No.
All right.
There's no number for SNUI either. Your unique identifier for SNUI is your email address. So we didn't see the need to have a membership number as well as that, because it's like two things to remember. So your unique identifier for SNUI is your email. There is a membership number for IM, and also Healing Accreditation has a number. But there's no membership numbers for churches unless an individual church has created them themselves. But there's no requirement for one.
Okay, and then someone had emailed that she had heard that SNUI is no longer, the I is no longer international, but internet.
It depends when the circulation goes out.
Okay.
When the circulation, which I think was posted last week, or it might be this coming week, there'll be amendments to bylaws, including bylaws I, which is the SNUI bylaw, the bylaws for SNUI. When that circulation is put in the post, because when we change bylaws, it doesn't become effective till we send it to the membership. The moment we post that circulation, that becomes so. The word international disappears. So it might have disappeared if they posted it Friday. But if they post it Monday, then at the moment today, it's still SNU International. But the moment that hits the post, that amendment, then it disappears the word international, correct?
Okay. All right. Anyone
else? It might be right, it might be wrong.
Okay.
Depends when they posted it.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any other questions? We have about a little bit more than 5 minutes left. Anyone else have any questions? Everybody's good?
I'm just going to wind up with winding. Oh, there's Ricky. I saw a finger from Ricky.
Ricky?
I hope it's a finger for asking a question.
Recording afterwards, because it's so valuable. Where can we find to re-listen to everything?
The recording will be processed by people in spirit. I don't know who does the processing. It's they're spirit people. And then it will be posted on the SNU or SNUI YouTube channel. So be sure you watch the SNUI Facebook page, because when the recording becomes available, it'll be posted there.
Can I explain, Sharon? Yeah. What happens is a member of the committee gets it. She chops it off, and then she adds a prequel and a bit of music. Then she sends it to me as the secretary. I upload it onto YouTube, and when I've uploaded onto YouTube, then I let everybody know on the Facebook. So, but I do know that Daniela is away at the moment, so there will be a little bit of a delay. But normally it's quite quick. It just depends when she can get hold of it. But we will make sure that as soon as it's possible, we'll get it onto the system for you all. So I will let everybody know via Facebook that it's on the YouTube channel.
Good. Thank
you. Well, sort of.
It's all very mysterious to me, so I just press record, and it goes.
if you open all your chat room bits within Zoom, I'm going to drop a document into it. It's going in there now. This is called the prospectus. It's the latest version dated 21st of July this year, so that's how new it is. It's what we call a living document, so it does get updated on an ongoing basis. This is like our Bible for awards and education. This tells you everything you should need to know about the requirements for every award. But because it's a living document, that's why it's dated, because if you were to contact me in 3 months' time and say there's a question about the prospectus, my first answer will be to you, what date is the version you're referring to? Because this could be updated next week, it could be updated next month. But if you download this, this is the current version. And it tells you, there's a breakdown of the courses, all of the awards and accreditations and the requirements for them, the current requirements. Now, you'll see some items in it which are greyed out. We haven't deleted them, we've only greyed them out. They're greyed out because they are suspended, but they're not removed. Once we actually will reactivate them, they'll become normal text instead of greyed out. So you can still read what's there. They're not kind of redacted, but you can read it, but at the moment you can't apply for those if it's greyed out. So the prospectus is our Bible, in a sense, for education and awards, all the information. If everybody asks a question, what are the requirements for a CSNU in private sittings? I will refer to this document, the prospectus. That tells all of us exactly what we should be doing.
Ken, I know we have some country representatives here today. Are we allowed to share this with our country meetings?
Yes. You can give it to anybody. It should be available as a download on the SNU website, and it should be issued to all new IMs on joining eventually. But yes, it's not a secret document. It's not confidential. It's public domain. Do what you like with it.
Okay.
Give it to the world. But it's, if you're thinking, what do I need to do to get this particular certificate or diploma? This is the document we refer to.
Excellent.
There's no more questions. I just want to wind up a bit.
I don't see any more questions.
I left school at the age of 15 because I hated it. No qualifications. I think for the last year at school, I didn't even go very often. As soon as I was old enough, 17, I joined the military, which up until that point was the best education I had. On leaving that, I discovered the SNU education, although I was involved in spiritualism even before I joined the military. I was still at school when I became involved. On discovering SNU education system, I discovered I wasn't really stupid or dim or thick after all, which I thought I was because I didn't do well at school. I realised that it was because what they were trying to teach me at school didn't interest me. Once I discovered the subject that really interested me, which is this one, I just went from course after course after course. Hence 7 diplomas later, 2 certificates, and I think I've done over, if you exclude the advanced courses, I've done most of them because I just liked them. I found that they interested me. So I'm a product of the SNU education system. Besides the training I had and education in the military, and certainly not a formal education, because as I say, left at 15 with no qualifications, hated it. But the SNU has done a lot for me through its education system. Your best education as well as a combination of the academics, but also living it and working with it. Mediumship is experiential. It cannot be book learned. We can learn about it, we can understand it, but to truly be able to understand it and work with it, you've got to do it. But the academic side is important. I often come across people who say, I don't understand why we have to do courses, I just want to be a good medium. And my answer is simple. Are you telling me you don't want to understand what you're doing? Because I want to understand what I'm doing, because I can do it better. If I can understand how this functions, then I can find a way of being better at it. And it all works together. There's a triangle. We did a diagram in, I think it was in HAS, where it's one thing after another. It's a process I went through in the military. You had some theoretical training, practical training, tested. We cycled through this in a spiral. Theory, practical, test. Then more advanced theory, more advanced practical, test. Every single bit of training I had in the military was in that process. Theory, practical, test. When they taught me to be a driver, because at 17 I went in the military, I couldn't drive. Part of my training had to teach me to drive. They didn't teach me to pass a driving test. They taught me to drive vehicles under any and all conditions, on-road, off-road. Before I was allowed to sit in one and start the engine, 2 days training before I could sit in it. I had to go around the outside, I had to go on the bonnet and identify all the bits and pieces. I didn't have to be a mechanic, but I had to know what that did. I had to know what tyre pressures had to be, etc. And they sit you in it and they say things to you that sound stupid. That big wheel, if you turn the wheel to the right, the vehicle stays. It was at that level. And then I had to sit in a simulator to test my braking reaction. So theory, practical, test. And that's the model we're using now in HAS and the new PAS and everything we do as we go forward. Theory, practical, test in this spiral, working our way upwards. And it works well. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We certainly appreciate your time and your knowledge and sharing it with us.
I've overrun by a minute.
I know. You did really well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this and look for the recording as soon as we get that up. And we appreciate Minister Steven Upton and his time and knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Good day, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are.
Yes, we look forward to seeing you all again in another session. Take care, everyone.
Bye.